All right, welcome back to Mordheim tier rankings, where I express my opinions on the skills in the game. But what do I know? This is the Paranoia mod, which has just vastly extended the shelf life of the game and introduces different, rebalances and introduces new skills or tweak skills or whatever to make them more balanced overall for the game. Since the creators have moved on and they made Necromunda, which is a giant flaming pile of shit that disappointed everybody. Hey man, so we're gonna look at, I'm more of a destruction kind of guy. So my two favorite warbands are on this side. The Cult is my probably number one. And the first warband I ever played with Mordheim, the Skaven. I mean, I was a Skaven guy. I was. I love animals. I love anthropomorphic animals. It brings me great sadness they don't have the beasts, whatever the fuck they're called. Like Minotaur. I think they're called Beastmen. Beastmen in this game. Lizardmen. We got little human rats though. But I was like so bad at the game, I just kept dying. I didn't get them. I'm like, God, these guys suck. And then I went to try another warband, and I did the Cult, which is probably even harder to play. But then the mutations got me. I was like, oh, these are wicked cool. So those became the only warband I took to 555 in vanilla. Like, holy shit, I played this so much. Um, yeah, it's all good. I'll post the video on YouTube and publish it here shortly. Um, and then there's the DLC, the undead. Not a big fan of undead things. I think that's just kind of gross. I work with plenty of dead bodies at work. I don't need to play with them. But we'll look at them as well. But still a big fan of Skaven. I don't know if a lot of people know that about me. I'm a closet Skaven guy. I think they are very powerful. Added who's here thinks they're broken in the mod. I think they're adequate. I think they can be a lot like the Cult though. They can be very strong hit and run units. Just like the Cult. Maybe that's why I like both of them. They're both very offensive. And the undead, of course, are just Mercs plus. So Mercs but buffed. So we'll look at the Skaven and what's gone on with them. Black Hunger, where you get to hurt yourself. This is not much change from vanilla. You used to just have to do it every goddamn turn in vanilla. I think Albro, I don't know if he's here, but he's in the tournament. He thinks it's terrible now. I think he was saying. Maybe he's changed his mind. Because I think the bypasses are reduced, but it's every 3 turns for mastery. Like, you used to have to eat 90 damage. Now it's just 30. Like, to me, that's a big buff. That's a huge buff. It might be less bypasses, but not like little fluffy rats with 300 HP not eating 90 damage. Instead of just eating 30. Like, that's kind of a big deal. So that right off the bat has buffed this skill. It's, you see these numbers, 15% dodge and parry bypass. Wait. It does affect ranged. Okay, no wonder he was. I was playing, I think, Albro, and his little rats were fucking nailing me. His Verminkin henchmen were doing like 60 damage with shurikens on my cloth-wearing leader. And it was just absolutely wrecking me. And I guess if you take Black Hunger and you have Warp Rage, like, that's pretty significant. That's 50% more range damage. Like, that's. So I've not mentioned Black Hunger in the ways to buff range, but I guess Black Hunger buffs ranged. And I guess the change is because range units are going to use it. So now they can. Interesting. So 15% for 2 turns removes 30 wounds, and then the mastery is just a bit more, but it lasts 3 turns. So you take 30 less damage every 3 turns, right? So why would you take mastery? Well, you get 5% more, and you're taking less self damage. I think maybe even that's what he was talking about. Why would I ever take mastery? And he does have a minor point here. I mean, it is a minor point. You also save 2 SP. So you're saving 2 SP and 30 HP every 3 turns. But if you're like hit and run, usually you're kind of killing quickly anyway. Um, do I ever take basic Black Hunger though? Do I ever take it on Henchmen and stuff? Looking at that, I would probably say I would take it on Verminkin. I could see it maybe being worth it, but if they're ranged, they're already SP hungry in a lot of ways. But it's like an ad. I don't know. I think it's good. 15% isn't a huge amount. I was talking about how much I absolutely hated Eagle Eyes and stuff, which is 5% armor bypass. This is certainly better than that. I mean, it depends on the armor, clearly, but in most scenarios, mathematically, this is going to be better than Eagle Eyes. Now it's an active versus a passive, I guess. I could see taking it on basic on like a hero too, with ranged. And I don't know if henchmen need it that much. I think they just want to survive. Like, but Warp Guard doesn't want to be self-harming itself in most cases. So it's struggled to see it being useful for henchmen. But I think mastery is pretty standard on the heroes that want to do damage. Like the Black Skaven, the Warp Guard, Lad's Got Talent Warp Guard, and the Rat Ogre, who we're looking at here in the builder. I couldn't get rid of the... There was nobody with an active on the on the Skaven. Same with the cult, so this sphere is kind of in the way, so I apologize. So Black Hunger, I think, is just kind of standard on... So a big part of Skaven is Daredevil now, I think. With spears, they've always had spears, but they don't have great weapons. They really have terrible weapons, to be quite honest. They have like spears and maces, and then halberds. But we're talking about one-handers. It's like spears, maces, swords. So out of all the one-handers, I think spear, even in vanilla, you used a lot of the times. Maybe maces. Spear damage is really low in vanilla though, but since it got buffed in the mod, I think it's like the default weapon for one-handed Skaven. And since it has good dodge and parry bypass, you combine that with Black Hunger. You combine that with your stats and skills, maybe weak spot other stuff, curses from the like Wither or Sorcerer's Curse from the Eshin. You start to get really good stance bypasses. That's why Black Hunger is really pretty good skill for the Skaven. And I could see, again, mastery on maybe a ranged henchman. I didn't realize. I don't know when that was changed or whatnot, that it does ranged buffing. It's funny. Albro's like, I think, why would I take mastery over basic? But right now I have mastery over basic. I think the 2 SP saved and the 30 HP saved makes a big deal. It gives you more mobility overall. Like 2 turns goes by quickly. Like you do it turn 1, next turn you got it, but then it's gone again. It's kind of frustrating. So I think it does matter. Like I think if you have mastery, you're using it twice a battle. Like if a battle's going like 6 rounds, that's an intense battle, right? PvE, PvP, whatever. If you're going, you're using like 3 times with the basic, you know? I think it matters. So I could see just taking basic though. I could see that, but I like the convenience of the mastery. And we get into numbing and warp poison. So these are like the yin and yang of Skaven. This is like what makes Skaven Skaven in the game with the poisons. Numbing poison for 2 turns for basic, dealing damage with the weapon inflicts a poison debuff that reduces max strategy points by 1 for 2 turns. Cannot used while engaged. You can't apply. Well, can only be used while not engaged. So you can only apply when not engaged. So if you're in battle, you can't apply the poison, which is where this becomes very much like a range thing. You can 100% use it in melee, like put it on and then go hit somebody. And you don't see that often. I think there's viability to that, especially the mastery. People act like you can only do this ranged, and it's kind of funny to me. If you're in combat for 3 turns, something's going on, especially a Skaven. Like, it's not good for Skaven usually, generally, too. You should be able to kill a unit and move on to the next one within 3 turns. If not, you can disengage and move around. So I do think it's totally just viable in melee as much as ranged. Ranged is a little more convenient. But I think you could definitely like numbing poison and then hamstring. I don't know why I haven't seen that used much. I talked about hamstring previously and how it looked really good on paper for sisters. But then I rated it kind of lower, the mastery. I just did their rankings because that minus 25 is worse than mastery overpower. I mean, it's brutal, that like malice to hit chance. This doesn't have that. You do have to bypass poison though, but you should eventually bypass poison with this. So it's basically kind of so the righteous fury, but then you can hamstring. You just strip away strategy points. You really kind of don't have to worry about stances so much with Skaven, and that's what they do. And then if you add in a, we're just talking about the mastery. Add a henchman with basic or someone shooting with crippling shot or stuff. You could just totally negate people's movements around the map. Ability to use stances, ability to use consumables and whatnot. And so it does not have to be ranged. I think this is going to be like an awkward one where like you see some skills where you just want to take the basic and the mastery, and this is one of them. Like henchmen definitely take the basic. Heroes take the mastery because you want to stack them. It's like, where do you rank these, right? So you took away poison immunity from the undead. So I believe the only immune units to poison are a chaos spawn and a plague bearer. Now, that said, other units will have really good poison resistances, like an ogre or stuff. Witch hunters will be rough. But you do have to bypass poison resistance. It's not nothing. And all the units come with some, because they have any toughness, plus you have like a base amount. So you do have to overcome. I'm pretty sure the chaos spawn is immune. I don't think you've removed it from it. I remember running into a chaos spawn and it wasn't taking poison. I mean, I could be wrong, but okay, maybe it's not. I swear to God, I remember doing something to a chaos spawn and it just wasn't affecting it though. I can't remember what it was though. Good thing I had coffee. So, like, what this does is really good, and you can take it away. Like, it's not godly because not everybody takes it. But remember, these are warband specific skills, and you can train them cheaper, and you get these, like, I don't know what rat doesn't have, like, 6 agility when it walks out the door. Like, maybe the warp guard's at 4. I don't know. You're just walking out. There's no way by the time you unlock your first skill points at rank 2, you can't just get these. And then early on, they like warp poison more than numbing probably. They will just fuck up people. Now, I talked about ranged crippling shot and what am I clicking on? Crippling shot versus pinning shot. I don't think I had them that. Mork may have had them different. I think I just had them the same. Like, you're either going to take away SP or you're going to take away OP, and you're going to do that. We just talked about hamstring. You would take hamstring with this, and then you would probably take pinning shot. So there's tools to do that. It's actually kind of easy to remove SP. And I think that can be just as effective as removing OP. Because if you removed all the units SP, especially if you're ranged, it can't reach you to use its OP. It's literally not doing any damage. It's actually stronger than removing OP. Because they could still maybe have some OP left to attack you. But if the unit's just standing there, twiddling its thumbs, you've really neutered it. And as Skaven, you can quickly back away and move away. Maybe it has a couple left. You can get to the point where it can't even reach you. You can just fuck with them, especially with like Wither, which reduces movement. So I think these are just elite. I think they're up there. They really are up there. Like, you build war bands around it, which is kind of where this is. And when you build them around it, they work really well. I would put this with it too. I mean, we're talking about SP removal, but the OP removal is just as effective. It's the same thing. It's just what do I want to do with my warband? They also have Gaze of the Horn Rat. Again, there's not really, only the sisters have the way to remove OP. I think it's easier to remove SP for the Skaven with the hamstring and the pinning shot. That's a little more awkward, as it should be. Like, you should kind of always have a few OP left. Like, it's like you could take away 3 and then 2 with the crippling shot, right? There's still, you're going to really struggle to get a hero or an impressive way down to I can't do anything. It'll usually get a couple hits off. But you can't get that way with the SP. You can really get them trapped doing nothing, especially because of hamstring. So that's why I would rank them all the same even too. It's like, what strategy are you taking? You are going to stack basic and mastery. Henchmen are taking basic. You might even take a hero with basic and a hero with mastery and just not even take it on the henchmen, right? There's a few strategies you can use here. So like the Skaven actives are all very good at what they do. SP OP removal, stance bypass damage. That's cool. So then you look at the passives. I'm less of a big fan of these, which is good. That's called balance. So ignore the fear. Again, that is just the Rat Ogre. Art of Silent Death, increased melee critical hit chance by 10% when using claws, bracers, or 1 dagger. And then 20% for mastery. So is a Rat Ogre ever taking basic? No. So basically the Rat Ogre gains 20% hit chance for existing. This is like fatality plus plus. Underdog, but actually good. I think underdog's only 15%. Or is it 20? Yeah, it's underdog without all the weird fucking caveats. It's like there's no reason to not ever take this on the Rat Ogre. This should just be standard on the Rat Ogre. I don't think I've changed his stats much, if at all. This is the Rat Ogre. It has Art of Silent Death. It comes out the door with 12 plus the 15. Oh, well, now we have to put bracers. So, is that right? Oh, it's basic. There. You walk out the door with 37% critical hit chance with this. That's crazy. Like, in PvP, now PvE is different. PvP, most people are taking like a decent 10 to 15 toughness and then like resilience or luck, right? You've already like, you're getting past that. Like, let alone if no one touched it, like an archer or a mage. Like, and this is with like just 1 passive. You can still take fatality and other stuff. Like, there's no reason to not have your Rat Ogre. Like, I haven't even upped the stats, right? Realistically, you can easily get 40. Like, 15 accuracies, easy choice. And you can put Havoc runes. You haven't even looked at all that. But, like, walking around with 40% crit chance with minimal thought is fucking ridiculous. It's crazy. It is so good. You should not ever not take this. So you're like, okay, Rat Ogre, boom. Right there. Should every time be taken. Unfortunately, there's an entire other warband that exists that we have to consider. So there's Fighting Claws. Well, what do Fighting Claws do? Fighting Claws are the armor bypass weapon for Skaven. Only a few units can use it. The only unit you actually want fucking using it is the Black Skaven. Because he's your melee guy with Fighting Claws. The Warp Guard can't use them. The other ones are trying so hard just to stay alive with their stats. I know that's off screen. You know, maybe I should like I always try to look at stats, but I was worried it'd be like, nah, we'll just kind of get in the way and be distracting. But most of the time with the rats, like, I can't even think who uses them. I think the assassin can use them, and maybe the Night Runner, but they're so fucking squishy, and they're going to have such little strength that the armor bypass from the Fighting Claws is not that big a deal for them. They would much rather just use Weeping Blades as their way to do damage. So the only unit, in my opinion, using Fighting Claws is a Black Skaven. Well, guess what? Fighting Claws of Perforation plus the Black Skaven's passive of 15%, I think 15% armor bypass. What was it called? I can't remember what it's called. That's significant armor bypass already. So why do I give any shits about critting a unit? Like, I'm already doing the job. So the only other reasons you want armor bypass or crits is fully bypass armor, max damage roll, and you can give it a stun. So, like, if you're doing, like, most of what you want to do anyway, big damage, armor bypassing hits, like, why would I invest in Art of Silent Death? I'd rather do things that, like, maybe keep the Black Skaven alive, or maybe just boost base damage, you know, like Daredevil, or other things like that that a Black Skaven will need to function out on the map. So, I don't love that it has Fighting Claws. It doesn't even make sense to me. Are claws that silent? I don't know. You know, I try to think about these things thematically. Bracers, you're punching some dude. And then you get to daggers. So daggers are just like shitty swords. Daggers are meant for ambushes. So there is the skill we looked at, Onslaught and Prowl, where you can have crit chance and then put a dagger on. You get that 90% ambush damage, plus maybe a crit, deep wounds. But you're still holding a goddamn dagger. So you really have to dual wield to get some benefit out of it. So you're going to take like a dagger and a sword. You could take 2 daggers and be like this ambush-based one. And then you put on the Art of Silent Death and you get the extra crit plus the Prowl. And you can really crit some units. It's really pretty good. It's not working for sure. In PvE, you can really screw up some units. The awkwardness of Fighting Claws, really turns me off from the skill. I don't get it. I think the unit that 100% always takes this is Rat Ogre. You can take an Assassin Adept, or like probably Night Runner, which is probably one of the weakest units in the game. Now we can't talk about the Poison Wind Globadier. He doesn't even have this, but he has like his own version. But you can take the dagger and be like this prowling, ambushing type of unit. Glass cannon. If you prowl into a demon, because you don't know what's coming around the corner, you have 1 dodge, and then you're going to get ripped to fucking pieces, because you're not going to crit it probably. It could be a bloodletter. You can't even stun them. Most of them have high crit resistances. You know, you could miss. You could fail the fear and terror because of what you are. You're just a little rat with horrible psychology. If you do not get that like crit stun, you're extremely exposed. Just so exposed. It's ridiculous. And that's where I hate, again, Fighting Claws or dagger plus sword. You're like you have to carry 2 weapons. You're already like prone to getting shot. Magic and PvP. It's just awkward as hell. So if you go with like dagger and shield, which is a lot more defensive, maybe you can survive, have some melee resistance. Now you're just stabbing some dude with a dagger for 30 damage. I mean, crits are crits. If you stun someone, great too. The rest of your team can come mess them up. It's just not nearly as good with the bracers. I mean, I'm going on and on about it. It is 20% crit chance. I mean, that's not nothing. Like, that's crazy. I've talked about how you have to have a dagger, so that's 4% less than it would be with a sword. If I'm a merc and I just put on 2 swords, I have, what is it, 16%? I don't know. It's 8 and 8, right? So 16%. Where if I'm a Skaven, I have 4 and 8, so I have 12%. So the Skaven are actually gaining 16% more crit chance because they're punished by having to take a dagger. So with a dagger, you gain 16% critical hit chance. If you take basic, it's clearly like worse. And then Fighting Claws, I've already gone about that. So I feel like it's kind of not that much better hit chance. It clearly is. It's 16%. That's not nothing. But if you only use a dagger, it's not great. You're forced to use dagger and sword, which leaves you prone to dying. And then it's hard to build up really, truly big damage with a dagger. But you can, and you can crit stun, and you can use daggers, and it can work in PvE. The other thing is the accuracy is a little rough. Anytime something's an accuracy skill, you tend to lose hit chances. So mastery, whoa. I think it drops down. I guess it's still great, because it is really good crit damage. I just don't like all the caveats with it. I think a lot of people like it. I could see why they like it. I think basic's okay. I don't think too many henchmen are using it. They literally can't use bracers. They literally can't use fighting claws. So you either have to have a henchman running around without a shield, or it's just running around with a dagger. But a dagger plus like with fatality on it, I mean, this little guy can fuck you up. It can fuck up a unit. You put a verminkin with a dagger and a shield and a prowl, and it crit stuns you, you're not a happy camper. So, I don't know. They're not bad skills. They're clearly good. I'm going on and on because I was saying I'd rather see Shuriken replace Fighting Claws. Paranoia thinks that'll be broken. That seems like something a ninja would use. Daggers, shurikens. The bracers is just to get the rat ogre involved, and it's fine. I think that's a big part of this. I like that it does that. It's okay. The rat ogre should scare the shit out of everybody. And it does. If you see one in PvE or you're like, oh, that's a problem. This guy, they don't have great hit chance. That's the one thing. They cap out at 16 weapon skill, which is terrible. And they're easy to kind of like have melee resist against them. But if they're going to hit you, they're going to fuck you up. And I love that about them. You have to be scared. I agree the shuriken at 20 might be too much. And I think part of me thinks the bracers at 20 is also like 40% out the door. That's fucking terrifying. So maybe it needs to go down to like 10-15 or 8-15. I don't know. It's still fine though. I think you guys can 100% make builds around Art of Silent Death and have fun with it in the game. That's enough about that. It's like pulling hairs. Or splitting hairs? Splitting hairs. Poison Expert. This is hard to invest in, right? So if you're taking the warp and numbing poison, you want to make sure your poisons land. That said, this is a 6 skill points to get 30%. That's not amazing. I'm looking at my rat ogre here. I haven't touched much on him at all. He's sitting at 57% poison. It's 3% per toughness. So most units running around will be 10 to 20 toughness. And there is a base amount. It must be, let's do the math. So you must run around at 30% base. So you're running around at like 60%. Most units running around at 60% base poison. To only bypass half of that for a 6 skill points is like kind of rough. Like, it's tough. I mean, I get it. Poison shouldn't be landing on everyone. I think you're better off just taking the mists from the Eshin, if you're going to go this poison route, or the Globadier with his things, instead of just putting out all the units. I think you can't waste the skill spots on this. It says spells. I guess that's for that warp mist. So like for the Eshin, see, it's this guy. Sorcerer, like that seems really good, but for the henchmen and whatnot, it doesn't feel good. I think the basic is just not good. The 15% is so fucking anemic that it's hard to get behind. I don't even think I can waste a skill slot. It's not lower down on the bad because if you're making poison builds, okay. Like maybe every little bit helps. The mastery, okay, maybe on the Eshin. If you really, really want that ranged build to be landing a lot of poisons on a lot of units, what makes me not like it is the number. I think the number's just too low. I think the numbers are too anemic. Okay, bases. Oh, it's because of the large. You have a point. I'm sorry, the large does add. So it is base 0. So there's base 0 is interesting. But these are the targets. That aside, like you want to poison like the dangerous units. Like I imagine a bloodletter. I imagine the demons have very high poison resistance. The ogre. And so for the units you like, I don't give a shit if I throw this on a henchman. Who gives a fuck? Like, you know, the units you want to get it on, and the AI is notorious for taking annoying fucking passives like poison defense. I don't even know what it's called. Mastery. They'll run around with. They'll jog around with antitoxins and antidotes and chug those before they run into combat. They'll take the shields of poison resistance. Yeah, I don't know. It. Let's just say it feels bad to waste a passive slot on poison expert. Mork's played some poison builds. I don't know if he agrees or not. I think you take it like the warp cloud's enough, like maybe the globe's enough on it. Like spending this on a passive slot on a hero just kind of just doesn't feel good. Every time I've taken it, it doesn't feel good. I'm like, I can't believe I'm spending 6 skill points. But if you want the shit to land, okay. I mean, it's okay. If you're making a poison build, and this is the Night Stunner, used to be the Night Runner, the Night Stunner, slapping poison out, you probably do have to take it. You don't need many other skills on him anyway, right? I don't think you take basic on henchmen. I mean, maybe you do. I gotta say, I'm not the most. It's not my play style. Like I appreciate the play style, but when I'm doing PvP or PvE, I mean, I just kind of want to go kill you. I don't want to like dick around with the AI. I just want to take some out and then loot the map. You know what I mean? It's just not much my style. So maybe you do take it on like the henchman that also wants to apply the poison. I don't know. So maybe that henchman does take it. I haven't dabbled in many poison builds. It feels cruel. Like if I was to do it efficiently at a high level, my opponent would not want to play me again. That's like why I don't do it in PvP also, right? Do you guys want me to do that to you? I don't want to do it. I feel bad with my sisters already. Hamstringing. It's like, fuck this guy. Can't do anything. Like, I don't want to poison you guys. It doesn't feel good. Like, I've had it happen to me, and it's like, you know, fuck, you know? So, I probably am not the best to judge it. I'm very good at judging Black Hunger. Maybe the Verminkin does take it. Maybe one day I'll torture you guys with Poison Skaven. Be glad I haven't yet. Okay, I'm glad you agree. It is like tilting, right? I'm like good enough. I don't want to sound arrogant, but I I, I, I don't. The community is small enough. I don't want to induce rage upon it with Poison Skaven. I'm doing Poison Sisters. That's enough. Swarm, when another ally is engaged with the same enemy, increases melee hit chance and crit chance. So this stacks with Art of Silent Death, the mastery being 10%. This is the reverse like combat positioning, I think it was called. Or, like instead of now, this undead have this to find the breach. Instead of you wanting 2 against you, you have to get 2 against the enemy, which isn't. You set up the conditions, so it's easier than the other one. But then again, it suffers from a similar problem. You know, like once it's dead, these things go away. Um, but these are good. These are good skills. I think if we're talking about warband specific skills, you take Swarm, you take Art of Silent Death, you can take Fatality, you can maybe take Black Hunger. You have a very efficient, like good working melee Skaven. Like you can live in their warband skills, and that's like what you want overall with a build, right? Like if you can, I talked about that a little bit with the sisters. Like if you just took Mastery Protection of Sigmar, Mastery Divine Aegis, you're going to be really annoyingly hard to hit with magic and range. So only thing left is melee. And you could totally do that with Sister. I don't see that taken often, but I think you could. I could have 100% have done that. trained it very cheaply early on, and people have been annoyed. Like, damn, they're hard to hit with ranged and magic, you know. I took builds different ways for whatever reason, but so I think these rats would be like, fucking, now I've talked about this. Oh, guy got me with a dagger. He did 30 damage, so it didn't fucking matter. But you could see your team running around with like daggers. To be fair, like we watched Albro play his first match, I think against Book Thief. I don't know. He had the better deployment, and he's running around with all these rats with daggers. And you guys were there, some of you being like, "What is Albro's barely doing nothing to this guy? What?" He's running around doing 20 damage with his little fucking daggers out. Like, that's what I usually see with rats with daggers trying to crit. It's like, so feast or famine. It's usually famine, and it's like, oh, look at the cute little rats with daggers. They're trying to hit people. They're usually missing because it's a fucking dagger. They have no hit chance. And then they hit it, and it's like not getting the crit. Or if they do, it's like, oh, pass the stun check. I did 30 damage, though. My dagger got you. So I don't know. I've tried it. I really have tried the Poison Wind Globadier's dagger build. He crit all the time, but it was like took turns to fucking kill anybody on a deadly because they have 400 plus HP and he's barely damaging them with his little fucking dagger. He's doing 50 damage stabs with his dagger because I'm in combat. You can only ambush like once. And then you're stabbing, 30 to 50 damage. Turnover. All right, I'll get you next. Okay, another. I'll get you on this third turn. You're finally going to die to my dagger. It's just, yeah, like what demon are you going to kill stabbing with daggers? It just comes back to the silent death. I mean, which is where you would, like if you're using Swarm or using Silent Death, there's no reason not to stack them. And then this is where Paranoia is like, well, just use Fighting Claws. It's like, I mean, if I'm doing that again, I'm just ripping through its armor with the actual Blackskaven that with Daredevil that can actually fucking kill things. I'm not swarming it or cuddling it, just poking it with little knives in my little rat hands. I'm just shredding it. Or my big boy rat ogres thumping, boom, boom, boom. You hear that sound, and you know you're just fucked. So, and it just rips it apart. Like, what am I? So, I just find it awkward with all these. But you can Art of Silent Death, Swarm, Prowl, Dagger Stab your way through the maps as Skaven. You can do it. The hit chance isn't that great, honestly. It's more for the crits. I think it's just fine. Again, I'm not sure these guys take it, so it's probably on the same. Like, it's okay. There is a Verminkin that could take this and this. Pick up a stone, maybe for extra damage. Somehow land its eventual 65% hit chance with its dagger, and then maybe crit you. And then, if you're going, why not? It should be right next to it. I don't think you're just rampaging across the map with these builds. But it can work. If you focus, if you concentrate, make sure you know the unit. This is the other issue I have. I never know who the fuck has it. So if you just apply it to everybody, your entire team, you're good. If you're like me, I'm like, oh, which of these assholes took Swarm? I can't actually remember who has Swarm. Okay, it's you, Jim. Jim, go get over there in that combat. Like, that's kind of annoying to do. Like, it's really hard to remember that Jim needs to go over there with Bob, and Bob's got to get in combat, and Jim's got to go in there on the backside, and then he'll get his 38 damage crit off with his little dagger. So that's Skaven for you. Nothing's bad. They're good. They have good skills. The other thing I hadn't talked about PvP, it's really fucking easy to counter crits. We're going to talk about the undead. We're not going to talk about corpse flesh, but there you go. Everyone gets a necromancer. Everyone can drink an elven wine. Everyone can take luck shit if they know they're facing a crit skate. Like, the second you know, just philosophically, the second you know you're facing like poison skaven or crit skaven, you can start to adapt. If you look at this, I've talked about there's no easy to master in this entire tree. As a player, you almost have to create two teams. You have to create my crit Skaven team, and then I have to create my poison Skaven team, and then I need to go against my opponent and hope they pick the wrong fucking team, and I pick the right one. And they brought all these antidotes, and I'm critting his ass. But then if you look at, how about I just take Daredevil Skaven with weak spot and just shred the fuck out of everyone? Yeah, I just take that. That's what I end up just taking because that just works every time. So that's what I always run into with Skaven. Like, do I take my little poisoners? Do I take my little critters? Or do I just take this highly effective, destructive Rat Ogre, Black Skaven, Lad's Got Talent, Warp Guards, Assassin, and just shred everybody? You know? I don't know. How about I just do that? So, I guess you could call them the Black Hunger Skaven. Because that's what you'd say. That's the only skill I take with that warband. Yeah. I guess Swarm went up to 1020, back to 510. Is this pretty much unchanged from vanilla? It probably is. Now we just click over. Oh, my boys. My boys. I was talking about this with Intimidate. I remember the first time I used it in the game. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I'm like, oh, okay, let's try that. And this little like ball shows up. First of all, I couldn't use it right away because the unit was probably against a wall or I don't know. I'm like, I can't. Why can I use this? This is my first introduction to the frustration of can a unit actually disengage in Mordheim. So, and then you see this. It does that sound. And then they run off, and you're like, oh, okay, well, I got him. And I didn't realize the power of it. I'm like, well, I guess that was cute, but it didn't like kill him or anything. So we're talking about attracting the lure. I don't know if I've even said. So later on did I realize how you're truly supposed to use attracting lure. And how you're supposed to use attracting lure is free attacks. And not just free attacks, free really fucking hard-hitting attacks. That's how you're supposed to use attracting lure. The other way you use attracting lure is, I really don't want this unit against my unit, and I'm the cult, and like none of my units can fucking disengage. So I will scare you away. But how you truly use it is more fucking hits. And once I like figured that out in my mind, I was like, holy shit, this is extremely powerful. So the Dark Souls. Everyone says this guy was literally on Discord. I don't even know if he's in here. He's like, I can't wait till I can put the warp guards in and replace my Dark Souls. And it's like, what are you talking about? So you have a Dark Soul. This is 6 intelligence. Your Dark Soul doesn't give a shit about leadership. So you're pumping up your intelligence right away to 6. And by the time you're getting 6 intelligence, because you want to get the knowledge of Mordheim, you get your first skill point, and you also get the 4 OP, and then you immediately train your Dark Soul to have attracting lure. And then you keep walking around with that giant two-headed great axe of murdering. You slice someone with it, and then you attracting lure them with it, and you get a free second attack. Ideally, you have his other Dark Soul buddy come up, and he attacks, and then this guy's like, your turn to attack. Okay, and then he delays, right? And then you go back to the other guy, he's like, I'm going to lure. And hopefully it passes. And then we both attack again, you know, and then he walks up and he lures again. And it just reminds me of the Terminator. He just keeps coming up and he attacks. Or like fucking Michael from Halloween, you know. It's just this monster with masks that just come up and just keep shredding you. And killing the victim, and then it runs, you know, there's always there in the background chasing you. That's attracting lure. And that's what it's for. And you make giant fucking possess in Norskamen and spawns, and then you have them do massive damage, and you're out of OP because everyone's dual wielding. And so instead you just use attracting lure with the henchmen, with anybody, and everyone on the group just says, okay, I'll hit him too, and they all just hit him. So this is an amazing skill. This is a skill that just, it says 2 OP and 2 SP, single engaged enemy. This is just what this should say is like massive group destruction. You know, turn 2 OP and 2 SP into like multiple two-handed attacks from all of your units. And on top of it, it's better Intimidate because there's no punishment. I mean, we can look at it because we don't have everything open. So these are supposed to be better versions of vanilla skills. Well, this is 2 OP, 2 SP, that's only 3. Holy shit, that's worse. Well, this has 25 bonus. This is just neutral. Then the mastery is 25 better chance of having them fail versus just 5. And it's also easy to master. So it's significantly better than Intimidate if you look at it that way. And then you usually have some OP and SP. Anyway, like that SP does matter in getting things off. I think every single Dark Soul I've ever made since I realized how this works has it. Every single ranged unit should have basic. If you don't want your ranged unit stuck against the wall, lure. The Magister doesn't, so many units that just don't want to be locked down can just lure for 2 skill points. You can afford it, you got it, no problem. So on certain units, I just can't fit it in. The cult really suffers from less skill points, and that's on purpose because of mutations. So it's only 2, but sometimes, yeah, you can't fit it in. But even the heroes, you can just fit it in somewhere. You're really like not struggling to find places for it. And that's basic. Mastery, I don't think is nearly as important. It is only 2 more. You do have a much better chance. I think this one's kind of good enough. Is that 25% significantly better? Like, yeah, it's probably slightly better than okay because it is only 4. And this is where I always go on about like easy to master is a big deal. It's less of a big deal with cult because they have less skill points. So in that sense, it's like this still costs 6 skill points. Let's be honest. I'm highlighting Blood Offering. I think all of them are kind of that way because, yeah, if you look, everything's easy to master for the cult because they have less skill points. That's why. So it's really like truly all of them are 2 and 6. But that's not the case for the Dark Soul or the Brethren or the Magister. Or does the Doomweaver have this? I actually don't know. They get full skill points. So in that sense, it is cheaper for them. And that's part of why they can be a little better. That said, I think Dark Souls lost 2 skill points with their head mutations, right? So I think it is like 1 better than okay. I still think this is like usually adequate in a build. And actives are easier to squirt it in. Blood Offering, melee attack damage. This is nerfed from vanilla, but it lasts 3 turns now. It increases melee damage 15% and crit by 5. I think crit's unchanged, but the damage was like 20-40, and now it's 15-20. And the crit's the same. So really kind of a lot of it, you're just going for that crit. Let's be honest. This damage isn't that, it's kind of anemic. It is easy to master now though, but like Blood Offering was standard in vanilla. So I don't think I ever really, like, this is another like basic Blood Offering exists because I'm on my way to mastery. It's kind of how basic is. That 5% crit does matter. The saving 1 OP every 3 turns like does matter. Like having to reapply this every other turn gets really old. That all does matter. I don't think Dark Souls take this because of what we just talked about. Like, you could Blood Offer and then like lure. Like there's a few combinations. You might like get hard stopped by like a web though or something. So if you then lure, your Blood Offering is going to be 4 OP, not actually 3 OP because you'll have tiring. So Blood Offering gets very awkward, I think, at basic. I don't think it's as useful, but some of these skills are in this game, and like the basic has to exist for the mastery to exist. I don't want to say it's like, I feel like I did somewhat say some of the other like stepping stone ones were down there. But like you're not disappointed when your hero has it. right away. There's a moment where you're training units and they have 6 SP, OP, or whatever, early in the training. And so what are you going to do anyway? You may as well take that. You could get more crits. Not everyone has resilient. Like, I think it's still kind of okay, right? 5% more crit, more damage is more damage. You're never like stopping on that though, and I don't think a lot of henchmen are ever taking that. Oh, so it's probably not good, right? Because no henchmen are ever taking it. But then the mastery, I think, is great. I don't think everyone's taking that again. The crit, like, so why isn't it like in vanilla? You took this all the time. Why not now? I do think this damage nerf like matters. And if you're not going for crits, and I'll be honest, like a lot of these builds you don't. Like I don't ever think of like Skull the cult as that critty of a team. A lot of people think of them as crit teams. I don't think they have that many tools that like they have blood offering. Some of their Ripper mutations can be kind of crit like. The Doomweaver can do his little dance, but everyone gets the Doomweaver. There's no like spells buffing their crit stuff. So they can crit for sure. Like there's definitely some crit builds. And I talked about how Paranoia utterly destroyed Vital Strike, which is a big factor with Blood Offering. This is a melee crit. And the fact that he made 3 Vital Strikes impossible now is a big deal. That's a big deal. Now you can do 3 attack Vital Strikes with a one-hander, but a lot of the cult is two-handers and armbands and shit. And now that you can't do 3 Vital Strikes in a row with like a mutant with 2 mace hands and shit, I think Blood Offering has lost some of its value. So it was really good for that 40% damage. That 20% matters a little bit. It matters a little bit. It does about, I don't know, 5 to 10 more damage per hit. And you might get a crit in there. But I don't think it's nearly as standard as it used to be. Which takes it out of that tier and puts it like middle good. And, I don't dabble much in Lad's Got Talent, Dark Souls, and other stuff. But I could see them taking it standard. Norska. I think most melee do honestly take it standard. So am I like being mean to it? It probably is a tier higher. I'm thinking about like my possessed always take it, even though I'm saying like they take that in Daredevil, like whatever else. The other thing is Frenzy. I think it is kind of standard to take. It's about Ad Rush Mastery. Yeah, you nerfed Ad Rush, so you can't get 3 OP. So you get 3 OP back, which would pay for each Vital Strike. Now you only get 2, so you can Vital Strike, go fuck yourself. Touch of Palsy was changed. It used to be like decreased movement range by like 2 meters or something. Now it's just like Righteous Fury, but worse. Which is okay. I don't want to sound mean, but it felt kind of lazy. I'll be honest. It's like, oh, it's Righteous Fury, but not as good. Now, the basic is almost as good as the mastery too, which I think is a problem. Like now you can stack both would be the counter argument, but like this is kind of good enough. Now is Touch of Palsy used versus vanilla and earlier in the mod, which nobody used? Yeah. I think it did affect climb downs too, which no one gave a shit about. So that's still there as a token gesture, but then like there's so many things that kind of already take away offensive points that I don't know. I wasn't that in love with this change. It's usable. It's very usable. I've talked about Righteous Fury, right? I had Righteous Fury literally in Godly. And this is kind of there now too, though, which I kind of don't like. Like, I don't like that they also have the sisters. Yeah, Mastery at -2 is way too good. I agree 100%. I just like, what can it be besides OP removal? Was like what I was like thinking about this skill. And it has the athletics, great. That was fucking useless. Nobody cared. which is why it was a problem. I think it was athletics, and then it decreased your movement range. But the cult had no other way to affect your movement range. So, like, who gives a shit? I'm in combat with the unit already. Where am I moving to? Which came back to, well, you can use lure, and then it can still just turn right around and get on me, though, right? Like, I don't. So it was bad. It was bad in vanilla, and it needed changed. I think what the debuff can be different. Like, this is supposed to be a Nurgle skill, though, right? So we were just talking about this a bit on Discord. Like, what's Nurgly about it? Like, I don't know. So you could talk about it affects poisons. It affects toughness. Um, if you're kind of paralyzed, palsy is like shaking, right? You have the shakes. It even shows like a shaking. Um, maybe it reduces like your dodge and parry stance like odds. But that's already awkward because armbands bypass a lot of parry, right? It's awkward, and I don't pity him. Like, does this work as it is? It does. I think it's kind of uninspiring. So, I don't know. I guess it works kind of with chains and this like poisony, chainsy pseudo Skaven, but I don't want the cult to be like. I like the cult. I'll be honest, the cult does feel like really powerful in this mod because they kind of do a little bit of everything. Um, so here's the other thing. This doesn't cost an OP extra. This is Burn the Witch. So the Dark Souls I just talked about, all taking attracting lure, can all palsy and then lure. And it's just standard now. There's no reason not to do that. There's no reason not to palsy and to lure. Like, if Righteous Fury was godly, how is palsy not? Heroes can sneak it in. Like, a mutant might take that. The mastery, I think, is less useful. It's probably right there with the good, with the lure. I think these are like sisters. The reason being, it can stack. It lasts a turn longer. If you're going with that theme, and here's the other thing. So you can take a mutant into like the Skaven. And this is kind of where I think Touch of Palsy, like, they already have the poisons. They have the gaze of the horned rat, and now they get this palsy in there. Like, I kind of, and I don't know if the Doomweaver can take it or not. I think he can. So the Doomweaver can get in there with heart failure. I don't like that the Touch of Palsy brings more OP removal to units or war bands and stuff that don't need it. So yeah, I see. Added agrees. I don't envy you trying to figure out what this should be, and I agree it's like working. It's way better than it was. I think it would need some brainstorming in the community or thinking about like how could this, like, what could this truly do besides like take away an OP? I agree it feels Nurgle-y. It feels Nurgle-like, but I think it's become just too like way like you compare that to Burn the Witch. Burn the Witch was 2 OP, 1 SP. Only worked on casters who the AI is trash with. Now you have this. It can totally fuck up two-handed units right off the bat. Right off the bat. This should be like one of the first things you train too. You can have 2 of the Dark Souls with that, 2 with Paul, you know? You go out there, you see 5 OP warrior right away, you know, like literally heroes. You can fuck them up with palsy. As soon as they get 6 in dual wield, it starts to become awkward, but then it becomes good again by the end. You know, they all have 8 OP. It's just really, really strong for keeping Dark Souls alive and PvEs. You know, it can fuck up impressives in PvP and stuff. And maybe it could do something like instead it reduces. So here's the thing: the cult does have some poison. Um, we're looking at a possessed. Their armbands all do poison, so it could do something where it does reduce like poison resistance. I know that would be weird, but say you want the mutant and you want to put the poisons on, you could have it like reduces poison resistance. And then when this guy is also in a Skaven warband, the mutant kind of has a role. It could be doing palsy and reducing poison resistances. So it could reduce like toughness and poison resistance. I don't know. Yeah, exactly. Reduce primary attributes. So it reduces physicals by 1 for basic and then 2 for mastery. I think that'd be pretty interesting instead. So a debuff that reduces maximum physicals by 1, and then mastery reduces physicals by 2. So it's literally demoralized, but for physicals. That's what I would envision, honestly. And then it fits into the warband more, because again, there's no one else like removing OP in the warband. There is the Idol of Pestilence, which reduces stats. And then there is the Curse of Chaos, which reduces stats. And the Boon, which increase. I would see Touch of Palsy more that way. So, and I think it would be viable and work and more thematic. And then it could get rid of this OP. I think the OP thing is like way too strong. I do. It's too strong. No, it's like this dirty secret no one's talked about. But it's like, that's really pretty fucking good. So if you make it like reduce stats, it becomes like more in this tier. Like, I'm doing a strategy here. Guys, watch out. I want to poison you, even though I really do want to have these poisons from my mutations land. So I want to reduce your toughness. The idol, I want to reduce your toughness. I want, this is Nurgle-y, poisony, long burn chaos warband, which they can do. They can do like really tanky, long burn builds with mutants and marauders and doomweavers. And they don't have to be glass cannons. They can kind of like melt you down over time by being tanky, and that's where that would fit in. So that's that. That's enough about that, I suppose. Chaos Evolution. This is again utterly useless. Exactly. I don't like that it gets into the sisters and the. We already have the OP removal. I don't like that it does the OP removal. Like we have heart failure. Like. And the Necros and mutants can go into Skaven. Like, I don't like that there's so much OP removal floating around on the destruction side. It just doesn't, it feels too broken. Like, to have all that. The gaze, the heart failure, the palsy, the poisons, and they all can, like, swap around. The Night Runner can move around, the mutant, the Necro. I just think it's, like, too much. So if you call one of them, it's better. Chaos Evolution was just, I don't even know. It's trash in vanilla. Something about jumping too, just like Palsy. This is a fun change. I've looked at claw. We should probably start at like claw feet. Everyone and their mother took clawed feet because it was 2 meters movement in vanilla. It was just, I don't need armor proficient. I have clawed feet. And if you did take it like, I'm a Skaven. Look at my mutant's a Skaven. My possessed has 9 meters movement. Get fucked. Now he has 10. I took knowledge of Mordheim. So this kind of takes a nod to, hey, I nerfed clawed feet, but I've buffed Chaos Evolution because the mastery gives movement range. And then, so who is this for? This is like the mutant archer. Like the mutant archer, I don't think it's the knowledge of Mordheim mastery. Now it could be wrong. We're done looking at them, so maybe with a book he does. But like you don't always want to use a book, right? And that's kind of the point. Yeah, he can with a book maybe. He has 12. But instead, maybe you get clawed feet and then take Chaos Evolution. So the point is you can like run up and jump down and move around and still have strategy points. So it's like Wall Runner. You can even take Wall Runner with this guy and then have Chaos Evolution. So after every climb, leap, jump down, chance to recover a strategy point. And even after a delay. So you can get your cancer delay tactics out. And then the big one is the mastery gives you +1 meter to movement. So like would a Brethren archer take this? I don't think so. I think it struggles a bit with the basic. Again, it's okay. It's like a stepping stone. I don't know if my Brethren wants to take that. He could have room for it. But he's probably busy taking like entrenched and some of those like I want to crit your ass stuff. Let's see, it's a little snowflake. I think it's not good. Like I think there's other skills you'd rather take. Swift jump, all of those. Maybe you take swift jump in that. But like as a mastery and it's easy to master, I think it's a good option instead of taking knowledge of Mordheim. Um, I think it's good. I don't think it's like game breaking or anything, but I've taken it on some mutant archers and I've been satisfied with it. It's a different route. You could take like basic armor proficient at 9 strength. And instead of taking knowledge of Mordheim, you could take like basic. So it's 4 plus 2, which is 6, but so maybe you are better off just taking knowledge of Mordheim, but you still get these benefits. These aren't nothing, right? With the climbing and getting an SP back, which pays is like getting knowledge of Mordheim. I don't know. It's just like kind of a different way of doing it. And then the delay, exactly. I don't like it's just a different way to skin the cat. And sometimes I just need to be skinned. So I think it's a fun way to build the call. It gives more options. Like, okay, I keep talking about like maybe I don't want to spend the stats where I want to spend them, and this agility's just fine, right? Like you can see where there's a lot of use for it with the mastery version, with a brethren or a mutant. I think these ranged guys are the ones that are using it. Magister wouldn't mind being a ranged build. You could certainly be a ranged build. Like I've talked about casters that are also ranged, and maybe he takes this just to have 7 meters movement and recover things to move around the map, or because he wants to delay, because he wants to do orders also, or weapons. I don't fucking know. But you can see where it's pretty neat. Again, I think this one's not that great, but it's like a stepping stone one. I honestly haven't used it much. And that's also why I like struggle. I would have to take a brethren because I don't know who else I would take this on and start using basic a lot to see if I like. Oh, okay, yeah, getting that strategy point back was really cool. Delaying getting that back was really nice. So yeah, yeah, you can see how it generally helps mobility. It's not intuitive looking at it, but like if you jump or leap or delay and you get the SP back, it's like you basically got more movement back. And depending on the unit's base movement, it could be a lot, right? Um, if you use swift jump, I assume you just literally gain a strategy point, right? So you use swift jump, and then boom, you gained a strategy point. Like holy shit! Now you're like running across the map even more. So honestly, maybe I'm like being a little mean on that. If that works, and I would say that's okay, because swift jump is very common to take. So if you swift jump and you gain back, so if you literally start your turn with the swift jump, you've gained nothing. But if you've gotten to a point and swift jumped and then gained a strategy point back and you're running some more, you've just gained movement. Um, so chaotic advantage, I just worry about this one so much. Like it's just up there. It's so fucking good with one-handeds. Like you don't even have to take ad rush anymore with this. So 80% chance, easy to master. Your mutants and your marauders. Anybody that uses a one-hander is just taking mastery chaotic advantage, and you don't have to take ad rush anymore because at your 9 you get 5 back. You're at 6, and then you put this onto like shield of recovery, quick counter. It's just absolutely absurd how many counterattacks you do. Now, the possessed, this is not good for at all. But then also the chaos spawn, you kind of don't need ad rush anymore. You just take this, you're at the 9, you enter the stance. When you don't, it feels terrible. Someone just ruined your fucking birthday. It's just the worst. You don't recover and you're like, I hate my life. Why didn't I recover? But you recover so often at 80%, it's just like, boom, okay, get fucked. You're countering. You're just beating the shit out of everything on the map. And I understand, like, why you've explained, like, I did 5 because I wanted something like a possessed to use it. And ironically, no possessed anywhere are using this. Everyone that's using it is the Spawn, the Mutant, and the Marauder. And they're like, you could use it with a one-handed Dark Soul, I imagine. Lad's Got Talent, like a totally untapped market no one ever talks about. Like, it's just so strong for fucking one-handers. And I don't know if there's a way to distinct between the two. You really kind of can't. Like, maybe just make this 3. I don't know. It's just way too fucking good to never not take on one-handers or spawns. It's just so strong. I've used it over and over. Uh, yeah, I guess. But like in reality, everyone's just using it on units with one-handed weapons or the spawn. It's just so good. And then I've talked about, okay, this is really good here. I'm going to dabble with my Dark Soul. He's good enough with these skills. And I've started taking the basic. And to have your Dark Soul totally recharge his offensive points is about half the time. It's like really fucking good too. It's amazing. To the point where I was like, God, I'm just going to keep taking like quick counter, or like you could like do recovery even. You could do the web, and if chaotic advantage to go off, you're getting like the web recovery OP back, and like so hitting Dark Souls, they become very fucking dangerous too. So I found that the basic, just like I was talking about with basic hunter, except this is OP. Like it's not up there because like Brethren can't use it, but like I think it's standard on Dark Souls at this point. Every one of my Dark Souls is going to take this because in PvP, you know, you're like, all right, I broke his stance. I can start like, oh, surprise, he's got OP left and he's going to start fucking with your hero or something. Like it's a way to just get out more damage, which is like a Dark Souls job. You go out there, you do damage and you die and stuff. And if the Dark Souls doing that, it's like really good. It's just really good. When it procs, it's amazing. If it doesn't proc, it's clearly trash. But to recharge your Dark Soul almost half the time, it's going to pay off. It's going to happen numerous times throughout a battle. Numerous times. You're going to have your Dark Soul totally recharge his OP. You have to use it with a shield. And again, this is where this is broken. Like, I understand you really wanted it with two-handers. I do. But the reality is one-handers getting 5 off points back is destructive. It's utterly destructive. Like, even as a stepping stone, like my mutant having that before he has, like, it's almost up there. Like it has to be lower only because 40%, you know, whatever. But anyone with a shield and a, you know, most of my Dark Souls have as the alternate weapon a great axe. You don't just run out with a great axe. But like the Dark Souls with the spears and shit, mutants, marauders, I would assume melee brethren if they exist. It's so powerful. Magister, I don't even know. Zinch warding. Again, this is warband specific again. So how does this work in the warband? Like Zinch warding, I think, I hope I put the girls up here. I think that's it. Yeah, like it's literally the same tier. So for symmetry's sake, there's Zinch warding. Two cost for 20, 2 for 20. Like done and done. And there's the mastery. I think this one struggles a bit more. It is cheaper to train. I was saying, I don't know if you were here at the time, but it's like for 2 skill points you get 20% magic resistance. And then you go to the sisters, and for 6 skill points you get 40%. It's like, oh, okay, for 2 I got 20, but now for 6 I get 40. And it's like, shouldn't it be like per skill point I get 10% magic resistance? And that's where this one's like, but magic resistance is still powerful. This one's a little better. Now, for 2 skill points, I'm all over the place, I get 20, and for 4 I get 30. Okay, that's a slightly better deal. So again, like I was saying maybe the sisters should be easy to master as well. So it's like one skill point, 10% magic, because I don't like the idea of making it 60% magic resistance, right? So I don't know, it's your decision, but I feel like this has a better ratio of skill points to magic resistance. But that said, this is something more for like the Dark Soul. I don't know if like even though it says easy to master for the cult, in reality, is it truly? Because you have less skill points. Um, so I find I don't take this nearly as much. That 10% matters. Like there's Demon Soul, right? Demon Soul plus basic. Like now we're talking about 45%. Do you really need this? It's not that good, honestly. That 10%, that tax for 10%, I don't think it's probably not good, honestly. I would just take a Demon Soul. Now, if you're pretending you can't pick your mutations, blah blah blah, but Demon Soul plus basic Zinch for 10 skill point, 2 skill points, 45% magic resistance. That's fucking crazy. I don't think for 2 more for 10, you know, I don't think it's kind of worth it in a lot of builds. Again, if it was 20, 40, and then each skill point is worth 10% magic resistance, we're on to something. So yeah, I realize like 10% is more than not having 10%, but the cult is struggling. I like lure would be better, right? Right? I'm looking at like where can I spend my 2 skill points? Where am I going to spend this? There's an economy that needs to be met. I had ad rush up here in previous. I have lure. I have palsy. I have basic. You plug those in. You're not plugging in mastery for here. Web of steel. You're starting to look at like where can I plug in, because there is a skill point economy, and I just don't know if that 10% gets you there. You're gonna just go. I am really happy I got this 20 for 2. We'll take it. Hey, most of my guys can wear amulets too, so let's go, right? This shit right here. I don't want to see all that, bitch. I don't know about you guys. Zoom in a little. Okay. Yeah, it's cheaper resist magic, which was probably around there too. But then I have to consider this within the warband. That's the twist with these, right? I think resist magic was right around here. But then for the cult, this is only the cult. Where's Demon Soul? Right? Where's Zinch? So relative to those, you know? So I think it's going to individually change where those go. Boy, I really struggle with undead actives. I just do. Okay. So insult but better is Death Stench. So for 3 SP, reduce melee resistance, parry, and dodge by 10% for 2 turns. So this is insult with parry and dodge bypass. That's probably a good thing. And I had insult really highly rated. If you go into combat with the undead, you will notice they're shooting the shit everywhere. Like PvP. People like this. It's a good skill. I agree it's a good skill. Let me see. I wish I could remember where insult was. I feel like it was up here. I feel bad I can't remember. It feels like it's a really good skill. It may have been right here to here. Um, dodge and parry, right? But does that debuff your own team? I think it does debuff your own team. Oh, never mind. Yeah, it's good, isn't it? It really is good. Where are we? I'm all over the fucking place. I think it's elite. Like, and you see it a lot. You'll see mastery version from the vampires and thralls. You'll see the ghouls and the vampire or the zombies doing that. Okay, it affects the dregs. It's another reason to make them ranged. A group insult that also has dodge and parry bypass. Yeah, that's good. That's definitely something you would want a lot of times. If you're taking any melee resistance bypass, why would you take insult when you could just take this? And this is what you see. You don't see insult. You could also take insult, but you'll see the undead just squirt that shit out. They just open their legs, and her fishy crotch smell goes everywhere. Death trap. Place a trap skull at target location that explodes. When an enemy approaches within 2.5 meters, reduces their current OP and SP by 2 for everyone within 5 meters, and then reduces melee and ranged hit chance for 4 fucking turns. Is that a typo? And then 4 instead. And then you ain't hitting shit. Like, Death Trap is really good. It is really good. Like, the big issue is, like, this agility is a bit awkward for a lot of builds, I'll be honest. Both of them being agility, I don't quite get. A lot of builds don't get 9 agility. Let's just be honest. I kind of hate that about the traps. So it's the smuggler's black powder trap, but better. Because it's got the melee and ranged resistance, right? Like, okay. It doesn't even say a fucking amount anymore. I think it's by 4 also. I don't know why it doesn't say that. It also doesn't say 4 turns on this. Can you guys see the... That's fucking weird. Trying to compare here. The 9 agility, though, like, it is awkward to get 9 agility. So this basic, I have definitely taken on my necromancer. It's like, well, I have two skill points left. I probably just don't hit 9 agility. Let's be fucking honest. And then you put this at a doorway to kind of protect yourself, and it can definitely save your ass. I think the 9 agility, I'm just going to keep going, is a big, like, problem. Like, this one's great, I think, for henchmen. Like, you could just... And this comes back to the Skaven poisons. I think you made them. Someone did. I have not made trap undead in PvP because I want people to continue to play the game with me. I don't want... I do not want to sit in a house with a necromancer or ranged thralls and a vampire, put down traps, and just, like, nuke you from across. Like, I don't like these because of what they bring to the game. And so, like, there's a lot here not to like. But it is, in PvE, quite strong. I think this agility is a problem, and having it cost 6 skill points, I think it's okay because of the agility trap is its own kind of trap. Single use. You always think you're putting it in a good spot, but sometimes you aren't. The melee and range resistance is nice. I think trap meta is cancer. So I can't rate that high because I don't like what it encourages on any level whatsoever. If you've ever played someone that's a trap player, I did in vanilla forever ago. He was the most arrogant player, too. He thought he was God's gift. Paranoia probably knows what I'm talking about. He put fucking traps all over the map and then just sat in a great house with his, like, I'm like, what are you doing? I'm not going in. Why would I fucking go into that building? And then the game is over. It's like, I guess we're not playing. Like, it's not a good meta. You can abuse the AI in theory and hope they step on it. And this melee and range resistance it's not really resistance. It reduces their hit chance, which again is different. Is quite good. The undead can't capitalize that on as much. Like I think Thrall might be the best melee resistance build they have. Yeah, I feel like you can literally put traps on people or right behind them, or and they can still explode. Um, the agility is a big deal. I mean, like it's tough. Vampire. He starts with 6. If I go to 9, I can get 15 toughness. Now I'm just at 9 strength. That's not terrible. He can go 9, 15, 9. Not terrible. You don't love that. Um, Dreg. If I go to 9 agility, I only have 11 stats left. And get to 12 toughness and 9. So you can go 9, 12, 9. You know. Thrall. She can go 9, 12, 7. That's pretty ugly. If you want like armor, you need 9, 10, 9. Like, don't love that. So you'd have to make her like melee resistance and take that. Do you want to waste the spot on that? Yeah, maybe, because it reduces melee and ranged hit chance. Necromancer, he has 3 agility. It is a lot to get him to 9. He can have 15 and then 9 for toughness agility. So I think it's a big issue with like the agility. And I'm never taking this on a fucking crypt horror. Let's get real. I see you is an initiative thing. So the problem with this initiative thing, oh man, like this is like such an untapped undead. Like the undead are so powerful, you just make them tanky and like cast on people that people don't even have to try other strategies. Um, but I think Paranoia tried. So you can take ICU and it puts a trap and he's within 10 meters. It reduces initiative by 20. In this part here, renders the location. You can see them. So this is like the flag bearer. When the flag bearer picks up the flag, you can always spot them moving around. So you'll know exactly where they are. This all alone in terror, back to the idol, you know, that no one ever fucking... well, I've seen it more, which is cool. Idol of Death, doing 30. And then the skill I was talking about, Demoralize with Dismay runes. Like I feel like this is an untapped part of like the undead. I would like to see more of. And in this case, you'd use probably ICU versus Death Trap. You can always use both. Very different from Death Note, which everyone wishes they had. You just write their name in the book and they die. So fucking up the fear, terror all alone. Like if you put this next to my augur steps on it. Here's the thing with traps, you like kind of see them though too, right? You'd have to like it's hard to like get it to trigger trickily. You know, the initiative thing undead kind of have covered anyway. Like they're really good at flipping initiative, but that's just another tool in their tool belt. They can fuck with you. It's funny, I talked about Scavenger's Curse, Knee Shot, and Staggering Blow, and I've never talked about ICU. So this is like another tool to fuck with initiative. They're usually jumping you versus you like you falling below them, but definitely a way to do it. And I think it could be perfectly viable in PvE. Like just scaring the shit out of like certain warbands like Merc, Sisters. They'll walk right onto this. You put down the idol. They're quickly going to be at shitting their pants levels. Never taking turns, failing all alones, having 0 fucking hit chances because of no weapon skill. So I guess I have to rank them now. If you can stack them 20 plus 40, I mean, again, I just don't like this meta at all. Again, the 9 agility I don't love. I mean, this isn't a cure-all. I was going to struggle to rank these no matter what. I think the basics are very much worth just throwing down as like protection of doorways, if nothing else. I don't want to get into the meta of what this brings to the game, though. So I think these could be good, but I don't like the desyncs. I couldn't even imagine stepping on all these traps. I think it could be fun for PvE, and I would recommend you guys try it. Let's just leave it at that. Body reconstruction increased by 25 and 75. Do you like Hardy? Did I rate Hardy very high? would you like a better version of Hardy? Like every single fucking hero on the undead should have mastery body reconstruction. End of story. I don't care what the fuck you're doing. You can be an archer, you can be a mage, melee resist. I don't care. Just take it. You're done. 75 HP. Done. That's really like 100, 150 fucking HP. Depends on your like what you have overall. If you take Hardy with it, it's absurd levels of like the Crypt Horror will have 900 plus HP. Like you stack this with Hardy, Constitution Rune. This is supposed to act like regeneration. I mean, I've told Paranoia like this is crazy, but here we are. It's supposed to act like their natural regeneration. This is how he came up with it. I just think it's insane that one warband gets 100 to 150 more HP than every other warband. I mean, it's insane. I think he can hit 900. I think he easily can. Are you taking a Constitution rune and a toughness chest piece? I mean, it gets absurd. You have to take you have to really go into it. Let's see. We'll throw it together really quick here. All right, so we're at 21, and then you get to 25, which is max. He's already at 568. He's going to take Hardy. I mean, you're playing the undead right now. I mean, he's at 760 with Hardy and body reconstruction mastery, 21. You would take the Constitution, which easily puts you to 800. Yeah, it probably sounds right then. 823 maybe. 800. With the toughness, he's got to be getting close to 850. I don't know. Either way, I guess you guys get the point. The heroes, what, are 550-ish, right? I've made a few. It gets absurd. You can just take a vampire real fast. I just think it's kind of absurd the amount of damage you have to do to take some of these guys down. He's at 501 with 15 toughness. So if you put, you know, the chest piece on there, we can try to make it like a book of toughness to see a little bit closer. 501, that gets us to 524. Just by 3 more, I gained 23 more HP. And you put the head rune, you're at literally 554, plus it'd be more than that with the Constitution. So yeah, you're over 550. He still has 2 more toughness. I think you get like 575. I want to say around that neighborhood. So Trues is over 100 Griffins. You get the point. It's crazy. It is crazy how much more HP. If you add that up over all of the characters, you have to take 1 to 2,000 more HP off of the undead. Like, and I think you take basic. Like, I've looked at it. I think it's a little more in the good territory. Like, because you take that, because I didn't like Hardy basic either, right? But if you take that and Hardy, we're talking about 45 HP for a henchman. And vanilla mastery Hardy was 40. Like, so you're getting a mastery level vanilla skill plus, you know? And so you have to take 2 skill points, 2 passives. The vampire or the zombies can get really big toughness, but they struggle on skill points and passives. So I did make like really heavy HP zombies with high toughness that just live forever, which is the most annoying zombie you can face. The other ones being ones that like do a lot of strength. He's saying 380 to 410 on most schools. It's got to be similar to flagellants. I've made 400 HP flagellants, and they don't even have body reconstruction. So it gets crazy. I don't think it's like doing it nearly as much for them per se. I mean, again, a zombie that's not dying is pretty fucking annoying. Yeah, see, they have 16 toughness. If you put the chest piece right on them, a zombie's at 20 toughness. I know you guys can't see these. It's like off to the side a little bit. So this guy's at 389 with 16 toughness. If we put the buck, we'll be really close. So he's already at 407 without the Constitution rune. So he'd be 450-ish, this zombie, I would think, with the Constitution rune. That's insane. For something with 0 morale. I don't know what to say there. Embed Wordstones increases Wordstone resistance by 15 and grants immunity to a quarter of debuffs you don't fucking know what they are. It's free. The mastery is just 2 and then half. You're just going to have to trust us that they're the ones you don't want. I'm pretty sure that the stats, the -5 to stats, the +1 to casting, shooting, attacks, and I don't fucking know after that. I would hope armor absorption's in there too. So like, look, without Doomweaver, you're pretty bad versus. You know how many comets I would have to cast to kill a 450 HP zombie for 0 morale drop? And you know how I would never do that? Like your zombie could have 0% magic resistance. No one's gonna fucking attack it. No one's going to attack it because it has 450 HP. That's why. Who the fuck would attack it? Just sit tight, buddy. I'm going to cast 10 to 15 comets on you and you're going to die. Just give me a second, though. It's going to take my entire fucking warband eating curses, being purifiers, a maiden, and a matriarch, and I will kill your zombie. Okay? No, it doesn't fucking matter. No one gives a shit. What is magic? It's a zombie with 450 HP. It's a fucking ball of tar that just sticks to you and is hitting you and gumming you up. It's just fucked up beyond belief. Who gives a shit if you've even stripped his Call of Van Hell? By the time he's on you, he's in his web of steel, fucking you up. Ugh, I'm dead. It's like they make mercs look weak. It's crazy. I love this as a basic being free. I think we talked about, we can look at it. I was very upset about how this doesn't give you immunity at mastery. So this is a slightly shittier version of Resist Corruption, except it has these quarter of Wordstone effects, so maybe that makes it equivalent? I'd like to see these just 20 and maybe that could be closer to 60. I know it's blocking the really bad ones supposedly, but like you're going to take this over this for sure if they're both free. But like I don't know what these quarter are, first of all. I have no idea. I've played the game forever. It doesn't fucking list them. I hope it's the one that increase cost of ranged, magic, and melee, and then maybe these are the stat ones. But I'd like to see the resistance a little higher. But if you're the undead, you're taking this over this as a free passive slot. And the number one unit taking it is like the Necromancer. So I think it's great. It's not like you're always taking it. If you happen to have a passive, which the Necromancer won't have a lot of times either, you're taking it. Maybe on the Henchman you're taking it, right? The zombie you probably aren't. The ghoul I could see having a spot for it. It's just hard to find a spot for a passive, and if you do, you're taking it. I think the other one's okay. Maybe I think I've taken Mastery on a Necromancer a couple times. The fact that it's only 2 skill points for that is pretty lovely, though. To not like be bothered about the Wordstone debuffs. I think it's pretty good. So he says roughly the equivalent of 40. I don't know how he knows that, but you're still taking some debuffs, but for like only 2 to take the mastery, I think is perfectly reasonable. Um, the biggest issue is it's a passive slot. Honestly, that's really the biggest issue. If I've noticed the undead, especially because what I've just said with Hardy and body reconstruction, they're already like running out of passives pretty quickly. And that's where find the breach. That's where a lot of these kind of struggle. Find the breach is also really good, but like I'm running out of passives. I'm like I can't not take Hardy and body reconstruction on every fucking undead unit. I mean, I guess I could be less greedy and just take this on some, but I just love both so much that it's hard not to. Like it's hard not to come out and say you have to kill 2,000 more HP against me than I have to do against you. Start the game. Like that's such a huge advantage just walking onto the battlefield. That it's crazy to me. It's just crazy to me. Like all things else equal, like you have to do 2,000 more damage to me than I have to do to you, give or take. So let's go. So find the breach is good because it's an armor bypass and there's not many of them. You could take this with armor break, like the drag can take mastery armor break pretty easily. I think some of the henchmen could take the basic. So it's a good way to get some decent ones. It's just like Swarm. So I want to kind of put it somewhere similar to Swarm in all intents and purposes. And that feels right. It feels okay. 10%. Like how pathetic that this is better than basic Eagle Eyes. I can't get over like that basic Eagle Eyes is 5%. Like it's so shitty. It's insanely shitty. So 10% armor bypass is going to give you an okay amount. Let's say we're a ghoul running around with a great axe. This might be the best case scenario. I like to look at the best case scenario. And I have find the breach. Great axe. They're so shit now, aren't they? Let's pretend we have a great hammer because I wanted a good weapon. And I have find the breach. I'm doing 14 more damage, right? 14, 15. I'm sorry, that's a max roll. 67. 6.7 doubled. It's like 13, right? So you're doing 13 more damage with find the breach. And then you're doing it again. So you'll have tiring. So like 23 more damage on a ghoul. That sounds pretty good. Way better than fucking Eagle Eyes. And then you take the mastery, you can see where you just double all those things, and it's pretty good. Something like a Crypt Horror would want it for sure. It's doing more damage. And it feels great. Feels right there. Like again, if I just look at my undead skills and I take these skills, like how good is my unit going to be, right? I like to, again, think of it that way. Like, now my melee guy is going to be like, okay, I'm going to come in there, spread my legs. You're all going to get death stench. And my other buddies over here, I'm going to get 20% armor bypass. And I'm going to and I have a fuck ton of HP. I'm just going to be messing you up. I'm not doing this because I don't want to, whatever. But if I'm getting in there with melee, death stench, body reconstruction, find the breach, like that's a pretty good combination of things, fucking things up pretty good. The one it does not block is literally the movement, the armor. Yeah, who cares about the melee range? It's funny, like, there's this piddly melee range resistance, and then there's like, minus 20% armor. It's like, these are not equivalent. You have chains of chaos. Like, that's like plus 1 OP to every attack. Or you get melee range resistance of 5%. Like, I'm sorry, what? How are these literally in the same category? How do I go from chains of chaos to that? It's fucking brutal, the difference between words like that. Like, not that I'm a vengeful man, but that melee ranged one should be like 20% to each to be like even close to like comparable. It's fucking crazy. Like the -1 OPSP are the ones where it's not saying like it's like, you know, if you ever notice you gain a blue pill or lose a blue pill, that's that. You're like, that could be dangerous if you expected to retreat. Now you're fucked. Okay, and then you have like horribly crippling ones, like the armor one. Oh, you've just lost all your armor, or hey, you just gained armor of righteousness, and then you also gained armor of righteousness. How do you like that? I just gave you 2 armor of righteousness. Or hey, you just got mastery armor break on you. Go get fucked. Like the dichotomy between what some of these can be is just. I honestly, if you want to look at something, please look at those. You looked at traps, but like, holy fuck, some of these stones are just brutal. What you can get for 4 turns, wherever the fuck it is. 3, 4 turns. Like, anyway, feels good to get that out. Well, that's where embed word stones is very important. That's why I pray at the card all the fucking time nowadays too. How'd they do? God, they crushed it. Sorry, Order. You got a lot of shit skills. That's okay. They have comets though. Their comets. And wait, I'm sorry. They can wear armor with their casters, so they're okay. Since these guys can put armor on their casters and have 4 meters movement range, I think Order's okay. They're probably okay. Destruction doesn't got shit on them. Like, I don't know, man. You'll have. I'll publish this stream. You can understand why some of these were bad. Like the basics. I went on about how Sign of Sigmar is shittier than most basic skills. And that should not be the case. Like why is a warband specific active shittier than any equivalent version? It's like, oh, I could take Sign of Sigmar, or I could take Careful Approach. I could take Sign of Sigmar, or I could take Feint, or literally any other things, and they're better. So that's what that one was about. That was concealment or something, right? No, that was the flawless like, why do I need 45% crit resistance is basically what that was. Why do I need 30% dodge? Like, the only unit that wants dodge is the novice, and then she's just going to try to miss, to be quite honest, for the open leg vagina picture. We talked about Fanatical Zeal, I think you were here. And I went on that about, like, why the fuck would I want that when I could just take Nerves of Steel? Poor sister's got a few down here. You can watch it. I'm going to publish it shortly. But it does, Destruction does have some pretty shit going on, huh? I don't know if these are fitting the format anymore. It's jumping around. I think they're in a good way. It's fun. I've enjoyed doing them. I'll publish, put them up onto the YouTube, and go get my howling dog. So thanks for watching.